War takes no prisoners. When war
takes
happens,
no prisoners.
when war happens, then it will be indiscriminate killing.
Can anybody tell me what's going on? Tell me what's going on.
No one gains much from war apart from the people who are
The people in power. Because remember, we talked about last time.
and those are very few.
Right. War benefits the people in power.
Both sides. It benefits the opposition,
Yeah.
benefits whoever is leading it.
And the people in power will never be the ones who will suffer. Unless, of course, they lose and then the enemy comes in and they take the leaders of the defeated.
Yeah. It can happen as well, but
Yeah.
many times you find people fighting, and after they have a peace, they
They have their peace treaty.
they have a peace treaty.
You
And
got
now
a
they're
million
friends.
dead people, but these leaders are living in luxury and wearing their suits and ties and
Exactly.
whatever. It's just,
It doesn't help.
no. So somebody wrote, with Arab-Israel dispute, especially Palestinian-Israeli dispute, no, the USA did not start or cause that dispute. USA took a side on that by supplying weapons to Israel, helping Israel militarily, and thus Gaza bombings with American bombs. USA didn't start that war, but when USA takes a nation's side by giving weapons, that keeps wars and disputes going and no peace. USA must work for peace and not take sides by giving more weapons. That continues disputes and wars.
So sometimes these wars are just for the bigger powers to show you that they're in charge. Sometimes that's all it takes. They just want to show you that we're in
They're
charge.
the ones
of
in
it.
charge, yeah.
And that's all it takes, and then you lose millions of people just because of someone's ego. You just want, because sometime I rarely watch news, but there's sometime I watched, and now eventually Joe Biden is talking about a ceasefire. He's talking about peace talks. Whereas a few months back was like,
we were talking about peace talks
about
then.
it now, and they are supporting which side, Israel. But now, let's talk about it. Apparently, after their motives have been
Exposed.
exposed or accomplished, whatever. I may be, debating simplistically because I'm not too much into politics. But the whole point is, it still shows that there is selfishness from one side, and it has no regard for the lives of the mediocre people, the mediocre person, the average Ukrainian, the average Palestinian, the average Israelite. There's no regard for them. It's more about the bigger people.
Everybody else be damned,
Yeah.
So there's actually more to this comment, Paul. Yes, USA has and does topple governments, which we talked about in our last video, that they see as threats, such as overthrowing. He gives an example of overthrowing the government of Chile in 1973, which the United States did, and replaced him with a leader who was more sympathetic towards American agendas and causes.
So the word should be puppet.
Puppet government. and I think he does use this. He does talk about this actually. He goes on to say, strong nations such like Russia and China also try to do the same things, to topple governments they see as threats and replace them as puppets. And I think that any superpower government would do this. I think the United States, being the primary superpower, is more guilty of this than other nations. I don't want to let other nations off the hook, but I think that the biggest committer of this crime right now is the United States government.
There's a video I was watching recently of, in the UK Parliament. They are debating about Uganda. So these guys are saying, Uganda has this leader of opposition. The new leader of opposition is called Senyoni. They call it Senyoni, but for us in France, it's Senyoni. There's a young man called Senyoni. We should support him because he has good agendas. Going on, blah blah blah. But they're talking about him as the savior of Uganda. I'm not saying Senyoni is not a good man or whatever, but how sure are we that they actually don't want to use him because he's young and ambitious? Because we have an old Museveni, he's 80 years old. He doesn't care much about what the people think. That's why he's able to pass bills which are anti-homosexual, anti-LGBT, because he doesn't have much regard for what those people have to say anymore. Because he has little to lose. But then there is this young man who's 41, 42.
Yeah, he's got his whole career ahead of him.
He has a whole career ahead of him. So most of the time he's going to do the bidding of the bigger powers because he believes they'll support him. And that's what they want. Yeah. So you find Senyoni might have a very clear mind. He has a good, a trajectory, a good plan of how to do things. But then the moment these people are supporting him, they'll manipulate him. He lands into their trap and eventually he becomes a puppet.
Yeah. You hear all these things about America is trying to make the world safer for democracy and so forth. And you hear all of these things that you tell people to convince them that this war is justifiable or that we need to overthrow this dictator, you know, because whatever. That's actually a good transition, and it leads into another comment that we have here, Paul. This person wrote, Bobby is right about the United States getting involved in wars and disputes that they have no business getting involved with. He used Gaddafi as an example. We talked about Libya.
Yeah.
But I think Bobby meant America's support for Saddam Hussein. I don't know why he thought I meant that, but I think this is another example. So he's given another example, but it's kind of worded kind of funny. So he's given another example of Saddam Hussein during the 1980 and 1988 Iraq-Iran war, when American presidents tolerated Saddam Hussein during nerve gas attacks on Iran, as Iran was then and still is the enemy. So here, because you got this conflict between Iran and Iraq, but Iran is considered to be the enemy of the US, we're then supporting Iraq because, you know, the enemy of our enemy is our friend, kind of. But then, all of a sudden in 1990, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, everything changes. Then suddenly Saddam Hussein becomes the enemy. So as this commenter says here, Saddam Hussein then moves on officially to become the enemy because of oil and because Israel pushed us to sanction and attack Iraq. The United States support for Israel is why the United States bombed Iraq. Some of this is worded kind of funny, but the U.S. supports sending arms to Israel, and Israel was pushing for the U.S. to attack Iran. So there's kind of motivations behind this, where we're being pressured by our allies to then turn on somebody that we considered at one time to be a friend because they were an enemy to another enemy. So the enemies change when our agendas change.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
So basically, one way you can say the superpowers, they use the other smaller powers. They use them, and when they dump them after using them,
right.
they could easily turn the guns on you tomorrow. So
Right. So for these smaller countries, if the United States is on your side today, the moment
there's
they,
no guarantee they'll be with
Yeah.
you tomorrow. So
because if you don't serve their interests tomorrow, they'll turn on you.
yeah.
But yeah, so I think 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many comments we
We
had.
should jump to the last one.
Yeah, so we have one last comment, and I wanted to use this last comment to lead into a new topic, maybe to introduce it, and maybe we can
Yeah.
talk about this more next time. The topic of single motherhood. Somebody wrote, something needs to be done about the abominable single mother boom too. Outlaw fornication. Now, I'm not sure outlawing fornication is actually the solution to this, but the person is kind of raising a legitimate point. And we said in one of our videos, I think it was when we started the males and suicide video, we talked about discussing single motherhood. You did respond to this comment, Paul. I don't know if you wanted to talk about your response.
Yeah. So basically, I don't remember how I responded, but
I can read the comment. As interesting as it sounds, I doubt it can ever attract any listen.
yeah. So basically, I don't think we can. Where the world has reached, we can never go back to outlawing fornication. There was a time when, let's say, Israel was a theocracy, and fornication was abhorrible in Israel. Because at least they have history of the Bible. When someone fornicates, there was punishment, etc. But that we're no longer in a theocratic kind of world. The world is in a different place now, so we can't outlaw something like fornication because there's something like rights. As an adult, I'm able to have consensual, sex with whoever I can have it with. So I don't think to have a listen. But there's a point here in that we're having a single mother boom. And why are we having a single mother boom? Part of the reasons we gave earlier in our episodes where we talked about immorality and God. We're living in a permissive world where everything goes. You can do whatever you want without no one has a right to tell you what to do because you're an adult. An adult, you can live your life the way you want to live it. No one has authority over your life as long as you're not hurting anyone. So people can just go around having sex anyhow. But I believe why we're having a lot of single motherhood. This is my submission. It may not be the popular one. But I believe feminism has a lot to say with it. And by feminism, I don't mean the classical sense of feminism, but the toxic feminism which is ongoing right now. We're telling girls, if you ask, there's something I was watching recently, but if you ask every girl right now, she's a 10. Every girl, I'm a 10 out of 10. So every girl believes she's up there, she's good enough, she's the most beautiful, she's the most worthy.
Worthy of the best kind of man.
Yeah, so every girl believes she deserves the best. So the moment the moment she's dating someone, and let's say they have, they all go for the best man out there. Let's say in the village, I give it in the town. Let's say we have, on average, let's say we have 100 men, and we have 100 women in the town. The 100 men, we can never have one-to-one as regards to relationship. It's only let's say the top 10% or the top 20% of men who all those 100 women will want.
Well, are competing for.
Yeah, so you find 100 women, they want only 20 men. So what will happen? Every man at least will have 5 to 6 of these women. So what will happen? This man cannot marry all the 6 women. So he will have sex with them. No man will really say no to free sex. The average man will say no to free sex when a woman is available. But for them, all they're seeing is they have the man has security, he can take care of me, etc. Blah 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 blah. So they stick around regardless, even when they know he has another woman. They don't care because they know he can still take care of them. So what happens is this man will, this top 220% of the men, they have all the women, and the other ones don't have them. So you find that this top 20% of the men most likely will marry one of the women, or at most 2 will be their wives or concubines.
Well, yeah, so like, for example, a culture like Uganda where that can happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you find like in Uganda you can have 2 wives, and it's not.
But not legally, of course. If you're going to be,
you can have it legally if you're doing a cultural marriage.
Yeah, cultural marriage, but not the civil marriage. So,
yeah, but it's still very expensive. So on the average Ugandan cannot afford more than 2 women.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
right.
But then you find that even these guys who have a little bit of money, all the girls want them. And you kind of to have money. It's about having a car. You have a car, and you have a small apartment. You can afford like spend what the average American can really spend, or even the broke American can spend. Here it's wealth. So all the girls want you because you have a car. But then you could find, because of that one car that you have, you find this one man has impregnated 9 girls because he has a car.
Yeah.
And he has impregnated them because they are coming to him because of the car. He don't have to use a taxi, etc. So he's impregnated 9 of them. They are all pregnant, but then rationally thinking, he cannot marry all the 9 girls. He's going to marry probably 1 or 2 at most.
Yeah.
And what happens to the other 7? They are single mothers. They are going to be single mothers.
Right, because they still have the child.
And it doesn't stop there, because abortion only happens in Uganda. It only happens when the girl perceives the man as broke. So when a girl has sex with me and she gets pregnant and she perceives me to have money, even when I tell her to abort, she will not abort it.
She will not abort, but if you don't have money, she will abort.
She will abort even if I want to keep the baby. So they only abort when they feel the man has no money. So most of the time, the guys with more money tell that you abort. She refuses to abort because she knows at least I can catch him with a child. At least he'll give me child support. It is because he has a lot of money. But forget that this one man has like 9 other women in the same situation. So eventually, even his many resources might still be limited.
Right, because he can't care for 9.
Yeah, so we'll only have 1 or 2 favorite women who will take on. Then the others are bitter single mothers. And but without learning, what it will happen again, even the single mothers, they still want the top 20% of men. So the cycle continues. You find a woman has 4 children and 4 men. And all these 4 men are reputable, like in context of our culture. Not when I say rich, the American would laugh.
Yeah,
but
rich by American. Uganda and American standards are rich or different.
They're very, very different. Yeah. But rich by Ugandan standard. You find that even this single mother wants that rich Ugandan man. So you find that the same thing happens. So most girls are really unlucky. They'll find that the second man impregnates them, still don't want them. And they can't afford because he's rich. Maybe he'll take care of me. They don't learn until maybe a 3rd, 4th baby. That's when they learn, okay, men are bad. Then they become very bad. Men are bad. Men are bad. But the reality is they're only going for the men who are already overwhelmed by female attention. They're going for those who are overwhelmed by female attention, and they can't service all those females who are going after them. So
And they're rejecting all the good guys who would
yeah.
have cared for them and their children.
So what feminism is telling girls that is they deserve the 20%, but then the girls are still 100%. It can't be satisfied by only 20%. So they said rather be single than having a broke man or an average man. But then, if they're still angry, bitter single mothers. You go to most apartments, you'll find many single mothers. Many single mothers. Because they want to hold on to the child. Why? Because they believe when they hold on to the child, they can still call the man and give the child support. So they hold on to the child. But then, Ugandan laws are not as strict as America, so child support they ain't really.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. Child support laws don't really exist.
We still have them. We have them
yeah.
per se. We have them in principle, but then in practice, they're not really as strong. And even if they are strong,
And maybe they're hard to enforce.
even if they are strong, they're not even hard to enforce. Even if they're not hard to enforce, the masses are not as informed about how to approach this. But with the corruption of the police, even if the girl goes and to the police, if the guy is richer than the girl, he'll just come to the policeman and give them some little money and they just shut the case. So they struggle with these babies, and they still don't plan. They get another rich man, another rich man, and then you find she has 3 or 4 children from 4 different men. Instead of settling with someone of their standard, of their same level, and they have children. Eventually, they can still make their wealth, but they don't see that. They only see the short term. That's how I look at why we have a single mother boom in Uganda. I believe it could probably be a different story in America. You can tell us your side of the story.
Yeah. I think the thing is, with the United States, what makes the single motherhood epidemic maybe more prevalent is the fact that women have so many opportunities and so many resources. There's not a lot of accountability in the U.S. A woman can have an abortion if she wants. She can keep the child if she wants, but if she wants to keep the child, then she can go after the man that got her pregnant for child support, even though the man had no say in whether or not the baby should be aborted, but now suddenly the man has no say in whether or not he has to pay child support. And then we've talked about that inconsistency as well. But it's just the fact that the laws in the U.S. benefit the woman rather than benefit the man. And, in the U.S., women are more likely to divorce. They're more likely to end a relationship because maybe they're not happy in their relationship anymore. Their emotions change or their feelings change, and they're not committed to the relationship. To have this belief that, okay, I entered into this marriage, it's forever, and I don't leave just because my feelings change.
And
And there are exceptions.
I would like to add to that one.
Yeah.
Another reason, because I may not be in the US, but I still have an idea what's happening. The idea is divorce has been so incentivized for females that they stand to gain more when they divorce than when they stay in marriage. They stand to gain. So I'll go child support. The man has to apparently pay for her rent, upkeep, and all that money. So she gains more from a divorce than not a divorce.
Yes, exactly.
Why wouldn't she divorce?
She gains
gaining more.
Right. She gains more by divorce than she does by staying in the marriage.
Exactly. So,
Right. And I want to add this, though. I understand that there are exceptions, like, for example, in cases where a woman is being abused. I don't say that a woman should remain in that kind of relationship, but the reality is most of the divorces are not those kind of circumstances. They're the type of circumstances where a woman is just simply feeling like she's not in love anymore. Is not
they're
happy.
being misled by
being
feminists.
misled. Yeah.
Have you heard of the story of Tyrese? Is it Tyrese Gibson? There's a movie actor. It's called Tyrese Gibson. I don't know, but Tyrese is the real name. He's black, and he acts in those Fast and Furious franchise. So what happens is this lady divorced him, or she left him, because of advice from other girls, bitter feminist girls. She left. Then after a few months later, the guy has cried on TV and camera. He's crying, "Oh my God, I can't believe she left me. I want her back." She refused. 6 months, 7 months later, she wants to come back after he has moved on and got another woman. That means there was no violence in that relationship. There was no strong premise for her to leave. She just felt like leaving.
Right.
And the small feeling of discomfort, or was augmented by the support from the other bitter feminists who wanted her to just leave and gain more or something. But eventually she lost more because she found out that she lost a man that she actually loved, who was really good, because the grass is not always green on the other side. And the feminists are telling you the grass is green on the other side, which is a lie. So she realized that, okay, I shouldn't have left this man. So many of them are just living out of influence, the wrong influence.
Right. All right. So is that, have we about covered the topic of single motherhood, Paul?
Yeah, I think so. There's not much.
Yeah. So
It's as straightforward as that.
yeah, so I think this has been a good discussion. We've covered all the range of topics that we've discussed in recent videos. We had a lot of comments this time, so we thought we'd use this episode, or these last couple episodes actually, because this got split into two. We used the last couple episodes to respond to all these comments and maybe kind of circle back and discuss the topic of single motherhood, which we said at some point in a previous video that we would discuss, but we never actually did. So it was good that we were able to come back to that, and a person's comment helped us to do that. So
Thank you.
so yeah, so we'll see you again in another 7 days. So
All right.
bye for now.